Just for our record, just state your name and your major.
My name's Connor Claypool. I'm a senior commercial music major, commercial voice major, more specifically.
Yeah,
great.
Awesome.
Got that covered.
Got that covered.
That's great.
This is about you're a hip hop fan. We've talked about this.
Right.
So how long have you been listening to hip hop?
Freshman year of college, I had a good buddy, Steven Sachs, who introduced me to a couple, specifically Chance the Rapper and Tyler the Creator, who I think are generally very good intro to rap people. It's good to start someone who doesn't like rap with Chance the Rapper.
Right.
And I was in that category, so I just really liked the beats, and it hooked me. I'd say probably the beginning of freshman year, and then to the day.
So after you got introduced to it, have you kind of progressed in throughout other artists?
Sure. Yeah, I found artists that I like, and then found the instrumentalists that played for them, and then looked into those people and saw who else they played for. I was like, oh wow, there's this whole underground network of really jazzy, hardcore musicians that like to play specifically for hip hop tracks, because I think it's one of the best ways to get jazz into the popular medium.
Right.
Because I think that a lot of it's hard to get people to really like jazz because it's so unrepetitive, but when you make it into a little loop, it's still catchy. You can bring complexity into. I think I'm kind of answering my own questions as this is
right. No, which is fine. So the way that the way that you like hip hop is kind of almost unconventional. That you'd say that you like it because it's bringing a less popular style of jazz into modern day.
It really values musical complexity and really integrity. Making sure that a lot of the things that are recorded by some of the really good artists, rap artists right now, like Kendrick Lamar comes to mind. 80%, maybe not. A lot of his tracks are live recordings. They're not made. They're it's literally people in a studio playing a take, and then they pick their favorite take, and then he raps over that. It's a real, authentic way to make music, and that's kind of hard to come by nowadays.
Right.
So I think that. That's not to say that I don't like a good a guy just sitting at a keyboard producing things, and there's some really good people like that out there. But I do think that my main draw is that they got elevator music back into the mainstream. They got cool chords and really heartfelt, or really cheesy resolutions that don't sound cheesy.
Right. No, I got you.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a whole bunch of artists. So I'm not gonna ask you to name your favorite artist, but so maybe talk about a song that really stuck out to you, or maybe an album. Talk about more artists if you want.
The first mixtape that I ever heard and was oh, that's a collection of good stuff was Acid Rap, Chance the Rapper's second or third mixtape, but his first big one, and it just it was one of the first things I found that was just you can play any song you want on that album and I will be super I love it,
Right.
He's a big and his producers Nate Fox and a few others, I forget their names, but Nate Fox is a really good really he's got those tensions and the resolutions in his mixes that just I heard those and I was yeah, I'm gonna keep listening to this guy. He's a guy. This is what I was looking for. So that was the first tape that I listened to that I was okay, I'm gonna keep looking into this new genre. I really love Wolf by these are the same artists that I mentioned before, but Wolf is Tyler the Creator's third album. And it's a masterpiece. It's really weird, but it's the whole thing's a story.
Right.
And then all the songs are interrelated. And then it turns out all three of his albums, and now four of his albums, are one huge story. And that made me I was holy crap, that's a whole nother application of music, to try to tell a narrative, but have each song be a standalone, popular. Yonkers is part of that story. But it's that's got 70 million views on you. No one would know that that's a scene unless you listen all the way through his albums and stuff. So I thought that was just an awesome innovation. really hard to pull off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, so some of the reasons why you love hip hop are very unconventional, and so what we're trying to do with this project is looking at kind of stereotypes of two different musical genres. So, someone who doesn't listen to hip hop, like maybe some of your preconceived notions before you were introduced to hip hop,
Yeah, totally.
are very different from what you discovered. So,
Totally.
if you had to list some of like the stereotypical like hip hop rap kind of motifs that maybe in like more popular rap music, more
Yeah, right.
radio.
Yeah, for sure. I got you.
What would you say those would be?
So like some common current like popular rap tropes.
Right.
Like those things
Yeah.
yeah. There's a lot of like there's like 4 snare drums that get recycled into every you know
Right.
like
Yeah.
when you hear the like there's not a lot of diversity within the rhythm section of things, and then there's also not a lot of in really popular rap. There's not too many layers of things going on. It's kind of like
Right.
and then like the boom, boom, like
Yeah, that's
it's
it.
not like there's no there's no it's more like somebody kind of like built this thing then created it. Like he was like, okay, we need the rhythm, and put the rhythm in there, and then it was like, okay, we need something that keeps the tempo, and then they put that like rap. I was here to culminate. Rap nowadays kind of it sounds a lot like just like it was just like made and thrown together by like a lot of different people.
Rather
so it's
than being,
not
like one consistent.
Yeah,
work.
like exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Like nobody's like trying to express themselves through pop rap music. You know, they're trying to make money through pop rap music.
Right.
But that's not the case for all rap, which is what it took me a long time to realize.
Yeah. So going off of that, what if you had to convince or like try to relate to somebody who maybe has those preconceived notions, like
Yeah.
what this genre is? What would you say to them?
That's it's funny you mention that. I've talked to my uncle who's a huge country music fan about how I just think that rap is one of these like iconic. Like I told him I was like I think like and it's funny how pertinent this is. I was like rap is better than country, Uncle Scott, and he was like that's ridiculous. Rap talks about like mistreating women and like being a pimp, being a drug dealer. And I was like, well, I mean, sure, if you want to pick a specific, you're looking at like the wrong part of rap. Like that's like, and so I think that to convince someone that this is a genre that they could actually enjoy, I would say you have to just find the right artist for that person,
Right.
or find people that you know are like they're. You know how there's like the Ed Sheerans of pop music, who it's like, okay, this person is clearly not just like an icon who's trying to be like
Right.
like this guy's like a good guy who's just making good music. Like you gotta find artists like that, I think, for people that don't like rap, because I think people that don't like rap assume the worst about it.
Right.
And I think that I have a hard time calling it rap, and when I say like rap, I
Yeah.
am referencing like little
Yeah.
like,
Right.
like,
I understand.
so it's like R&B and hip hop I think is where you gotta like look, and then like like find if you know like okay this person doesn't like rap but they do like Stevie Wonder and stuff like that. It's like okay you can find there's a
like
middle
a
ground there,
niche.
you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you could find an artist that person will really like.
Right. So you made this actually really easy for me to segue. So do you personally listen to country music at all?
No, I wouldn't. I don't like throw it on, you know.
Right.
But I also don't turn it off if it's on, you know.
Right. So you're very
So it's
passive
fine.
about it.
Yeah, I don't try to like learn anything from it. Like most of the time, I'm from like hearing like even like electronic music. I'm like, ooh, what can I absorb from that? I'm not trying to absorb anything from country music. But it's still art, you know.
Yeah.
It
yeah,
has,
someone's-
especially in the
someone's being genuine about it.
diamonds, the really good songs. I can absolutely like for some reason I don't know what it was. I loved "Love Story" by Taylor Swift. I thought that was such a like the retelling of Romeo. I don't know why, but when I heard it, I like hated all of her stuff. And I was like, but this one's good.
Right.
But
Right.
like so I don't think that the genre as a whole is like a turnoff. I just think that I don't typically like the songs that are found within the country genre.
So yeah, so you haven't really found. So maybe you found one diamond in the rough per se.
Yeah, and it was.
So what would you say? in general that country music is about? Like, what would be some of those maybe popular tropes that you find in country music?
It's a lot of it's a lot of like pandering to a specific audience of like, I love my country and my girl and my beer and my, you know, like there's you can write a country song in like 45 minutes if you listen to other country songs, you know, like it's so I think the repetitiveness, which is another issue of rap, it's like it talks about the same thing every time, and when you like, what's the point of, you know, eventually that makes it, when you have a whole album of like, I miss this girl, it's like, you know, like what else, like how like
so trying to connect both of these, because obviously we could agree that one is, I mean, on the top, but they're very different genres, but you could possibly find something that everybody can get into, and just, so generally what type of people do you think listen to hip-hop? What type of people do you think generally listen to country? Is there any crossover between?
I find a lot of my friends here who enjoy or who would define themselves as singer-songwriters tend to like country music because the instrumentation, if you have a guitar, you can perform country music.
Right.
That's not the case for hip-hop. You need quite a setup or quite an innovative set to get away with like you performing hip-hop. You know, like you can't really imagine, you know, it's impossible to picture someone going up on stage with an acoustic guitar and performing a rap set, you know, just because like, so it's I find that people who like melodies and listen to songs for the lyrics and the top line, you know, melody tend to like country because they're really hooky.
Right.
And that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. I don't think I answered the question right. But
that's fine.
Say it again. Sorry, what was
so we were just talking about the people who typically listen to country versus hip hop. If there are any correlations or stuff that separates them.
Okay. Yeah. I think that the similar turnoff, which is sort of answering that question, the thing that both genres have going against them that people like to knock them for is that they're very they're really produced is not the word I'm looking for, but it's like there's 6 different people's ideas coming out into, and they're like all of those are attributed to the person singing it, but that creates a false. It doesn't come across as like a true message from the artist, genuine. You know, because the artist did not write the lyrics or the music or got the instrumentalists together, you know, like they were handed a sheet and were like, sing this.
Right.
And the same with rappers too. They were like handed it, here's your hook, rap, you know, here's verse 1. And I think that people that can look past that in country tend to notice it in hip hop, and people that notice it in hip hop or look past it in hip hop tend to notice it in country. I don't know too many people that are like, my 2 favorite genres are country and hip hop.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that I do think that there is quite a number of differences in terms of what people listen for. You know, like people like, if you like the traits of country music, it's likely that those traits won't be found in hip hop. You know.
Right.
So I can't think of any like strong correlations between the two. I'm sure there are some. But,
right. Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you one question that's kind of off my script, but just so we have a little bit more to go off of.
Yeah.
So part of what me and Deion were talking about earlier is how both genres can be very along a certain spectrum. Where, as in hip hop, you have people who are very interested in the beginnings of hip hop, the roots of where it started, and dislike the very
modern
popular music. Modern interpretations of it nowadays, where it's very produced, very seemingly money hungry,
like
very
artificial. That was the word.
Like mumble rap is a very big controversy in the hip hop area, whereas country, there's a kind of like homegrown roots, genuine country sound that people prefer rather than kind of arena country, which is what we
Yeah,
talked about
like,
that pandering.
exactly. Yeah, that's for sure.
How do you feel about that? And you could talk about more specifically hip hop, but how do you feel about that spectrum of like more of a liberal versus like conservative hip hop?
I like that correlation because I think you're right. I think that the people like Blake Griffin or no, that's a freaking basketball player. Well, what's the Blake Shelton. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, no, is that another basketball player? That he like, he is like the designer of like I mean maybe not because I guess I don't really know enough to label him as the fake
right.
but yeah, that is a good. It seems that the ones who deserve it the least make the most money, in both genres. Like the really good country artists, I guess a lot of the iconic ones are like older now. But the modern country artists, like the good ones, don't seem to get that much recognition. The ones that do get recognition are the ones that like go through the grinder of like getting into popular, like, because being famous and being the most talented could not be more different, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
the people that don't, it seems like, like the Taylor Swifts and people that might not have all of the skills to have gotten themselves there if they weren't also really good at all these other things, like being a TV personality and being like cool, like it's seemingly a good person that people want to get behind. That's in rap too, and that's everywhere in rap, it seems, because a lot of good rap, it takes a long time for good rappers to get recognized. Like,
right.
Chance has been doing stuff since he was like 14 and he's like 22 now, and now it's like, oh yeah, of course, everybody, but like nobody listened to him. And like Anderson .Paak.
Yeah.
He's like 36 and he's writing phenomenal music, and like his stuff is crazy good, and then it's like, oh, this guy's got 4 albums, like, but it really.
All right, just to kind of get this rolling, you want to state your name and major?
My name is Trevor Creek, and I'm a business management major.
Okay, cool. So, how long have you been listening to country music?
I'd say probably about 10 years.
10 years. What do you like about it? Like specific like artists or anything like that? Like just kind of hit on those.
Specifically, I think I like it more because it's really relatable and it's easier to understand. I know, like, I hate rap music because 90% of the time I can't understand it. And other than that, I just enjoy listening to it driving down the road.
So, like, is it more of, like, the music side or, like, the lyrics? Like, you can...
More of the lyric side when I can't understand it. Like, if you can understand the lyrics and then kind of where they're coming from, like, it's always nice to know that kind of stuff.
So, like, there's a lot of, like, stereotypes that come up with country music. Can you, like, name some of them off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, like... Hickish would be one that like mainly characterizes it. I don't know, other than that, not off the top of my head.
Right, so just like name like maybe 1 or 2 artists and like their songs and just what you like about them.
So first it's a newer artist. His name's Seth Ennis. He just came out with a song, Woke Up in Nashville, and it's just like really relatable because it's him like following his dreams and his passion and like ending up where he wanted to. And then the other one's Kenny Chesney, and I'm a big fan of him. He was like one of the first big country songs I got into, between Young and Beer for My Horses.
Yeah, that's a good one. So you talked about newer artists and older artists. Just what do you think their differences are, like musically, lyrically, anything like that?
The newer artists more have like a pop feel to them, which at times I don't like as much as the older ones. That's why I tend to listen to some of the older artists. And I also feel that like the older artists actually know more what they're talking about. Like they were raised in more like a farm setting and like grew up out in the country compared to the newer guys who grew up in like cities and towns.
So newer artists who, say someone from Nashville is singing a song about farming, like stuff like that. So like it's almost uncredible, I guess you could say.
You could say that in a way.
Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna switch this over to like talking about hip hop topics. So like, what are some of those stereotypes that are shown through that, like just everyday music that comes on?
Hip hop. Say more like inner city, like you get more stuff like that. Like, it's hard to explain.
Just like what kind of like common trends do you hear in there? In that music?
It's more like dancing and like partying and that kind of stuff compared to just like relaxing.
So like what, like, I mean, because like a lot of people, when you give them these two genres, they're either gonna love it or they're gonna hate it. So like what are some of the differences that you see in both types of music?
So like differences between the two, I'd say like country music is a lot more laid back and like just easier to relate to compared to like hip hop, which is more like going out and partying every weekend and that kind of stuff. And I think the like being able to relate to it's more important than like just like dancing to it.
Just take it off.
Oh.
So let's stick to hip hop and country topics. So let's go for a non-country fan. What would you say to them to kind of get them to at least turn their ear, maybe turn on the radio to a certain country song?
What I'd say is like the more you listen to it, obviously the more you're gonna like it. So even if you start with something more like country, there's a lot of country artists now that kind of have like hip hop twist to them, and so maybe if you start listening to something like that, like you can get a little bit of a feel for it, and then from there you can work your way back to some of the older stuff and even some of the more country like newer stuff.
So just like finding music that has common themes and something that you listen to already.
Exactly. Yeah,
Okay.
and finding something that you like enjoy and you can kind of relate to.
Yeah, awesome.
All right. To get this started, how about we start with your name and major?
Eric Beerstrom, sports management.
Okay. So how long have you been listening to country music?
I'd say when I was little, probably like 5.
Okay, 5 years old. So what do you like about country music?
I like just that it's like a different like atmosphere when you listen to country. Kind of like if you're having a bad day one day, maybe listen to country or something like that. But, definitely enjoy it on different days.
Awesome. So can you talk about some of your favorite artists, songs, albums, any of that?
A couple of artists like Luke Bryan, George Strait sometimes, Randy Gilbert. Songs, I mean, probably mostly are Luke Bryan songs, I would say. We can't really, think of any songs off the top of my head right now, but yeah, those would probably be like the top artists,
So out of all like the country genre, what is there like specific things in like certain music that appeals to you, like rather than like other country songs? Like, what are you looking for in a country song?
I would say that looking for a country song, just like different like atmospheres of like different beats or like the lyrics or something like that. Nothing like this country twang or something like that.
Right.
That might not be. I actually don't listen to a lot of that, but it's more like integrated in. It's hard to tell. Like integrated into a certain extent of like their life story kind of songs, and then like maybe like where there's like the little pop-ish kind of country ones, like Florida Georgia Line.
Right. So there's definitely some stereotypes that are associated with country music. If you had to name a few, what would they be?
I would say if you like live in the South, you would have like people think that you gotta listen to country, or like out west, everybody always listen to country. They don't like listen to anything else. But yeah, I'd say that's probably number one.
Awesome. What are your thoughts on some of the topics about country music? Like, do you think they're repetitive at all? Like,
when I like think about listening to country music, I think that it's always gonna be like a life story background of like somebody's dad growing up or something like that. And say there's just always like a story behind there, and I mean I think it's repetitive sometimes, but also then you find the country songs that don't have anything that has to do with like a life story background, but usually that's what I expect to happen in the song.
So kind of switching topics now. Do you listen to hip hop at all?
Yeah.
So you're actually one of the only interviewees that listens to that can listen freely to both genres. What do you like about hip hop?
I like to listen to hip hop when sometimes it's basically trying to have a good time of like different atmosphere. The lyrics sometimes are totally different. Obviously, that might be about it.
So obviously there's some stereotypes about rap as well. What do you think those are?
I would say like if you might like live in certain areas or something like that maybe, or if you like think that sometimes gangster people that always listen to rap or whatnot. I mean, for myself, obviously not, but I would say that's about it. Like, or the number one thing that I come about.
So, you being someone that listens to both these genres, which are extremely different, we don't see that a lot. Having two different genres be so just you being able to listen to both genres just kind of freely. Why is that, and why do you think there aren't more people like that?
I listen to both because I like different days. I feel like why not listen to rap walking to class or like listen to country. Depends on the day that I have or whatnot. But I think that people should actually start listening to both because you might find like maybe one song you do like and one song you do like on the other side of like country, and it's just different. Like you can enjoy. I think that everybody should enjoy both because of that. It's different.
So, if you were trying to convince somebody, and this could be for either genre, probably both, to listen to country, to listen to hip hop, what would you say? What would you say to try and convince them to give it a try?
For country, I'd convince them to say like, hey, maybe this story can relate to you in somehow, somewhat like if your family atmosphere, or basically like just it's different from if you're listening to hip hop to country. Like it just gives you a different feel if you like different music. For hip hop, I would say that you should probably like if you want to, or like if you want to go out or something, like maybe it's just a different thing instead of listening to country music, relaxing. Instead of like going out at night, listen to hip hop sometimes. But hip hop it gives you a different sense of like music, some with the beats and stuff.
Awesome. I think that's it.
You are.
Recording? Alright, awesome. So, how are we going to start this off? Just state your name and your major.
Alright, I'm Josh Bateman and I major in music business.
Alright, awesome. So, you're a hip hop fan, correct?
Yeah.
Alright, how long have you been listening to hip hop?
Probably since I was about 7 or 8.
7 or 8, so
Yeah.
a pretty long time. So, what attracts you to hip hop? What do you like about hip hop?
I like the way it makes me move, like the vibes. It's like, it's hard to explain, but like when I listen to it, I can relate to it and I feel good when I listen to it.
Alright, sweet. So, you have to like it. So, what are some of your favorite artists? Like, you could give me artists, songs, albums, like, just generally, like, what attracts you to, like, certain, like, people?
Okay, so I say my favorite hip hop artist is probably Kendrick Lamar. Not to be cliche, but like he's just amazing at doing everything. Like he'll do a song with Maroon 5,
Yeah.
and it'd be crazy dope. And then he'll do a song with Fredo Santana, and it'd be crazy dope too. So, and then his own music when he fuses jazz and hip hop together is just like genius. So,
Awesome. Okay, so what are some of your favorite songs?
favorite songs?
Yeah.
I'd have to say, let me see, All About You by Lecrae, Swimming Pools by Kendrick, Do Anything by this girl Hazel. It's a pretty dope song featuring Fetty Wap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me think. Broccoli.
Yeah.
Everybody likes broccoli. I'd say those are it.
Right. So, I don't know if you know this, but we're gonna put this in. So you produce, and that's part of the reason why I asked you to do this interview. So what listening to hip hop, what influences do you gain from that, and how has that influenced you to do what you do now?
So, well, I'll start with how I got into producing.
Yeah.
So, what ended up happening was I went to a church and they wanted to start a rap group, but they needed producers and obviously they didn't want to pay anybody.
Right.
So what ended up happening was, since me and my friend, we both played piano and drums, they got us to work with FL Studio. And basically from then on, after producing that first track, I was like, I knew this is what I wanted to do. And
Did you start?
Yep.
Cool. So keep talking about afterwards your favorite genre was hip hop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like I said, my favorite genre is hip hop. So naturally, as a producer, I would just create hip hop. I never tried to recreate anything. I just tried to be myself and do my own thing. So, but everything that I was listening to would influence me in such a way that I'd be able to do my own thing when it comes to producing. And once I started to really dig into it and research, I found that the producers I liked most were like Mike Will Made It, Zaytoven, Timbaland,
Right.
Pharrell, Dr. Dre, basically all the big name people. And then this one producer that not a lot of people know is Gotti. He produces a lot of pop, but he also produces trap, hip hop, and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff influences me. And then other genres influence me as well.
So not only as a listener but as a producer, you have to deal with the stereotypes that hip hop kind of brings. And there's a lot of them. So if you could tell me what do you think someone on the outside looking in would think about like rap and hip hop in general?
Most people would probably look at the trap aspect of hip hop. I feel like that's like the epitome of hip hop right now for some reason. Everybody looking into hip hop looks only at trap, so they immediately think anybody listening to trap, or hip hop wears like baggy pants,
Right.
or just like some super tight skinny jeans but always sagging,
Right.
Quote unquote look like thugs, that type of thing. Drinks in the studio, smokes in the studio, mumbles,
Yeah.
that type of stuff.
Right. And how do you, as a producer, how do you deal with that?
I don't do any of that.
Right.
Like I may sag on occasion just because I forget about it. But besides that, like I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any of that. Like honestly, I feel like I might be an example to people looking into the industry.
Awesome. So we're kind of switching genres now. Do you listen to country music at all?
I don't really listen to country music,
Right.
but I'm not opposed to it.
Right. So part of the reason why we're doing this project is that we see that country has a lot of the same maybe issues that hip hop might have, where there is some very known stereotypes about country. So when you think of country in general, what are some stereotypes that you might see about country?
When I first think country, I think somebody wearing a cowboy hat, maybe some boots. You got a twang in their voice with the accent, like love songs,
Right.
guitar, horseback riding, that type of stuff.
So now we see that there is a kind of spectrum in country music where there's the older artists have a certain view about the new artists and how the music changes, and this is very similar to hip hop. What do you think about how the style has changed, how hip hop has changed from the roots of it being in disco to scratching records to what it is now, like the kind of liberal and conservative views of hip hop? What do you think about that?
I hate the fact that older hip hop artists are bagging on the new guys, just because, I mean, that same type of thing happened to them, and I know they didn't like it, but now they're doing it to like our generation. Even though this generation of hip hop is different, it's you can't it's like you can't understand them now, but it's how we express ourselves. So I mean, if music is about expression, then who are you to judge that? You know what I'm saying?
Right. So